everybody. We're here from CyberSN. You've got Lisa Kendall. I'm the marketing director. Adrianna, who is our East Coast champ, and Launa here, who's our West Coast champ. We're going to duke it out, metaphorically speaking, about jobs on both coasts. And what we're seeing, we speak with, I think, about an average of 85 people per day per team. And we've got 3 to 5 teams working at any given time. So you're talking about upwards of 10,000 people a year. What do you ladies think? Does it feel like you talk to 10,000 people a year?
Yes. And I feel that's why I don't remember anyone's names. I have so many going on.
Seems likely to me.
Yeah, I think ever since remote started, we're talking to people all over the place. So it's just increased the number of people we touch quite a bit. So yeah,
totally.
For sure.
Yes,
totally.
I 100% agree with that, Launa.
I know. So let's give it to Launa for just 1 minute to tell us a little bit about you. You're joining us here, how long you've been with us, what you specialize in out there out west, what you like about being on the West Coast. I'm from California, so I admit I'm biased going into this one, but take it away.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Launa Rich. I'm the managing director for our West Coast. I've been here for over 5 years. We are have a team of 7 people in San Francisco Bay Area, but we cover all of the West Coast when it comes to PST and MST mostly. What we're seeing in the market right now is a huge influx in, okay, great, security is a real thing and we're actually going to hire for it. So we're seeing people put the money in, put the time in, put the effort in to build real teams, not just hiring one person to do everything. We are seeing, we saw the salaries level out a couple of years ago. So they're pretty competitive with software engineering salaries right now. The roles we're seeing the most are just pretty technical. We see a lot of roles that require Python scripting, AWS, software engineering, anything like that is really appreciated. Everything from stealth mode companies to Reddit, Amazon, they're looking for similar skill sets. So those are really good skills to learn. But yeah, it's a great market. It's really about just how you conduct your search and getting your foot in these doors, but there's tons of opportunity.
For sure. Adrianna, how about you?
All right. So I am Adrianna Iadarola. You want to change the screen for me?
Mm-hmm.
So I am the managing director of the East Coast. I've been with CyberSN, going to be a little over 6 years now. So I have primarily focused on the Northeast. I would say a significant amount of roles that we are focused in on right now are offensive security. We're seeing also a lot within the compliance and risk area. Something has definitely upticked where securing the products and services at organizations has been the primary focus, and making sure that they're, collaborating and testing them consistently has definitely been a significant uptick with all of the breaches and ransomwares and what have you. So I would say in the Northeast, the biggest component for us in searching has been finding talent that is willing to go back into the office. That has been something that we've seen organizations preparing for as, January 2022 comes. So I think with the industry, moving towards more offensive security, which doesn't require somebody to be in-house or working on site to really look at those things, but then also organizations requiring it, we've seen a bit of a challenge with candidates being able to access roles now from the entire US, being that majority of them are remote. But with that being said, our biggest components of clients that are working within the Northeast are definitely cybersecurity products companies. Boston is definitely a breeding ground for a lot of organizations to come from other countries and, establish a, first area kind of sales group within the Boston market. We've also seen, a lot of uptick in newer cybersecurity focused product and service companies building. But healthcare and education, the thing about the Northeast is it's definitely been a plethora across the board for organizations and the different industries we work in. But I would have to say narrowing down on offensive security, risk, compliance, GRC, Really just making sure that companies have all of the boxes checked off, and then they're testing things consistently. That's exactly what our kind of focus has been within, the hiring side.
Cool. So we hear a lot about the Great Resignation and being spread out across the U.S. I think, feel the impacts at different times at different parts of the country. This is something that we're releasing this week. It's actually some fresh CyberSN juicy research for all you folks. No one's seen this before. This is world debut. And what we're seeing currently on a larger scale as an organization, burnout, all-time high. People only really want remote work if they're searching for, a leg up, a lateral move in particular. The change they want is often going to be based on remote, and the growth opportunity. That's a huge piece in cyber right now. I feel like, being an emergent industry, a lot of the careers, we're fighting fires a lot of the time. And so taking that step to have a strategic succession plan, growth for your team, backfilling people who leave, that is hard to do when we're this busy and we're always putting out fires. So what are your takes on this, as far as what you're seeing? Do you agree with, sort of this? Do you feel like one thing is worse than the other on one phone?
I can start. I can start first, Hannah. I look at it as burnout in many of reasons. I feel that, since the pandemic hit, a lot of organizations have taken a different approach to security, right? They might not have, I wouldn't use the word valued, but more so really just put it at the forefront of what needs to get done. And being that there was a 2-week span where everyone had to be completely remote, organizations were not ready for that. And with that, their technology, their different services, and it really opened them up to having significant vulnerabilities where, they had to kind of backlash. And with that being said, companies were kind of in the trenches, and the folks that they had working for them had to work, 90 to 100 hours a week to even make it possible for their employees and what have you to be remote and be on a secure, kind of environment. And really just, no one was taking jobs for a little bit, right? Everything kind of just stopped. So no one was moving to new opportunities. So finding additional headcount wasn't there. Companies didn't want to hire headcount because they didn't know what was happening in the future. So what we see is that a lot of burnout was going. And then companies started to say, well, we're already getting the work done. Why are we going to hire more people? Well, it's because that one person's working 6 jobs.
Yeah.
So
your guy's about to quit.
That's where we're at. And I've seen it on the CISO level where, the mental health and just really going away. It was already hard enough that we all had to really be distant from our families, our extended families, our friends, but they also were even distanced from their own internal families, even though they were home, because they just couldn't leave their computers. Right. So, I just see an uptick in general of wow, let me just go and work at a not-for-profit and make a quarter of the money and just not have all of these stressors. But, I definitely see, the remote being another significant thing where, again, a lot of people are going back into the office on the East Coast. East Coast is really kind of breeding that back and wanting people to get back into the grind of things. But in the same sense, I don't know if other individuals are ready for that. I do see working on the remote structure, though, is no one has hours anymore, right? We don't have the 9 to 5s. Everybody's going and can work, 12, 14 hours a week. And a day. And just you don't even realize it, right? You sit at your computer and you're there and you just don't even look at the clock, and then no one's distracting you or walking away. So I find it to be an impact on a lot of different areas, but I definitely have seen an uptick in growth on people because they've been given new initiatives and really responsibilities. So I do see that a little bit within organizations, moving people up because they do need support in areas. So they're giving more responsibility. But I definitely
so it's balancing out a little bit.
Yeah, I've definitely seen an impact though on culture being hit, right? Especially for companies that have been more so in-house culture where they do a lot of things together when at work offerings. It's how do we change that mindset? So
for sure. Launa, that makes me think of West Coast, Silicon Valley. I put in my slides here. Let's see if we get to the next one. The points about culture do not go noted, you're going to need more than a snack bar and a game room to get the top talent these days. What are you seeing on the West Coast with companies being competitive, remote work, salaries? What are they doing to get the folks, and where are they finding them if they are?
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of kind of thoughts on all of this. A lot of this is applying. A lot of these great resignations are pretty experienced people, right? They're pretty senior, and they've been through it all before, and it's gotten that they just don't want to sacrifice certain things for these types of jobs that probably don't fully appreciate what they bring to the table. Now, with that being said, I do think that leaves an opportunity for a lot of junior people, right? That are willing to make some sacrifices for a few years going into the office, training. If you're really willing to adapt to those things, I think it does give you a really strong opportunity to learn and be in the office and get trained. So I do think that's there as well. When it comes to experienced people, it's a war out there, right? And so I think that can be really confusing when you're looking for a job, because you have people promising you things, people saying things, people telling you we'll give you this, and you know what, sometimes and oftentimes it doesn't happen. So it's really about not getting too caught up in these things, having a lot of self-awareness about what's really important to you. Is work life really important to you? You better dig into it, because most companies are pretty honest if they don't have it, quite frankly. In the West Coast, I've seen it. But if skills or learning is the most important things, dig into that. So really know what's most important to you and go find that, because there are a ton of opportunities. And if you're conducting your search proactively, and that doesn't mean just applying your resumes to jobs, because that doesn't work, then you're going to have options, and it's going to be money being flung at you. And you're really going to have to think about, what do I really care about, and identify those things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to add, Adrianna? How about the remote work point? I know this came up in our advanced talks, East Coast versus West Coast attitudes about remote working, given that this is such a hot topic. You want to drop a little insight?
Yeah.
Adrianna, I'm curious to start with you, because I know it's maybe potentially creating more of a challenge on the East, the way that the companies are sort of bringing people back in or not, or requiring it or not.
Yeah. And I think before I move on to that topic, I think I just want to add one last thing to that. The resignation is taking those, professionals and those practitioners and actually utilizing them to train and develop some more of our junior staff. So creating a new type of position for them to say, you're burnt out, you're no longer responsible to oversee all of us, but you're ready to retire. We understand that. But how about you give us a year? How about you give us, a year and a half to help us bring in some junior staff and support and really train them up and develop them. And I think that should be something that we should all focus in on trying to do. It's creating more of that training module, like that mentorship program from these senior staff before we lose them, to retirement, and really utilizing their skills and their knowledge in other ways, so we can then start bringing new practitioners up, because that has definitely been a big issue across the board. But moving on to the remote piece, I absolutely have agreements in the said that I think going back into the office is not such a negative thing. I do feel that, it kind of can go flip for a flop, because I think companies are definitely suffering from not having that cultural collaboration. But I also, in the sense, see a lot more companies trying to really rush in it too soon and not being open-minded. I think that giving the opportunity to have folks come into the office is great, because I know a lot of individuals would like to do that. But I think also being open to having people stay remote, because they might have some hesitations and nervousness or health issues. So I think we need to be cognizant to make sure that we're not pushing them in one direction or the other, but giving them opportunity. So because all of this happened to us overnight, we need to not change it back overnight either. And not make it so it's completely justifiable in the sense, like, you have to come in the office. And we're seeing a lot of companies saying you have to be vaccinated. Let's be honest, it's not fair to force somebody to get a vaccination in order to have a career or a job. I mean, this is getting to the point where it's like, let these individuals make their choices that's best for them and their families. And let's be flexible with this, right? We're all in this together. So we need to have a mixed support, right? So if you want people back in the office, some people will go back in, but also still give the opportunity for people to stay out.
Definitely. We've only got 20 minutes here today, so unfortunately we got to move fast. And I want to get to this too because we've also got some salary info that's dropping, and you can also find this in our booth. And I mentioned in the chat we will head over to the CyberSN booth when this is over. Looks like maybe we can go a couple minutes over, but we'll head to our booth whenever we wrap up here. And then if anyone has any additional questions, that way we don't have to rush and speed talk through your answers. We really want to help and give information where we have it. So come over there, and we have time there to actually, get with you, get on camera. You can come meet us, and we'll answer your questions. Yeah. To this salary range data, I know it's maybe a little bit hard to see because it is tiny, but we got asked, we put this out because we added salaries to the new career center at cybersn.com. Definitely head there by the end of the conference, build your profile, get in our system. It's an alternative to a resume. You can add it to your resume. I saw a question about if I don't have a strong resume, what can I do? This is something you could do. This profile is an additional thing in your tool belt to help you get a job. Launa sent 2 of her sharpest tools to Smart Cities this week. We had Dawn and Stephanie giving talks, and I'm hoping those videos will be out soon because they're both wonderful talks about getting into the industry, how to get a job, what to do with your resume, how to talk about your projects, your experience. And this is one of the things that we get a lot of questions about. And so we wanted to show that there is a range of salaries. There's certainly a range of responsibilities within each of these titles. And as we can see, calling it compliance only goes so far. There's 5 listed just here that are cyber, compliance roles. Real quick, 30-second thoughts on comp, salary. What can we do to make it easier for job seekers or that they can do to make it easier for themselves where you're at? Launa, go ahead.
I would just say really quickly, so tying in the remote piece, yes, remote is still super prevalent in California, unless it's an IoT company or there's some sort of reason why people need to be in office. Usually companies are opting for remote for talent. What I will say, though, is these comp ranges, if you live in Minnesota, you're going to have to be aware that they are really looking at cost of living when they're making offers. So interviewing for a California company does not mean you make the top of the this range, which honestly, that's a lot to do with the West Coast or urban locations. So that's what I would say. Just understand that cost of living is a factor here. It's going to come up in your negotiations and be prepared for that. Don't be offended by it. Nothing like that if you're not living in like a major urban area. But yeah, I mean, I went through this data with a fine tooth comb, and it's pretty spot on. So, if you're at a role where you're not getting compensated for this, you have a lot of grounds to ask for more money, or when you're negotiating to reference this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have to keep in mind too, when it comes to the salary ranges, I know candidates are having more access to a lot more opportunities, right? So there is, professionals that are, they once were only able to apply to 10 jobs because, they're local here and people had to go on site. Now that things are remote, they have access to a lot more companies, a lot more organizations. Please keep in mind that we are going to work into a phase where they could potentially want people to go back into office, right? They potentially will then require relocation to happen or else you lose your job. So even though they're stating it this, they also have that ability. So make sure that you're getting that signed in your offer letters, right? That under no circumstance are you going to be required to relocate in a year or so. Let's make sure that we're protecting ourselves, okay? Because we all know, and I've seen it even prior to the pandemic, that, they can be remote and then all of a sudden it's a change in leadership and then they're required to go in office and this happens. And then you're required to either relocate or look for a new job. So keep these things in mind. Companies that once originally were in office, I would say a good percentage, 70% of them will require people to go back in. It's just been their culture. It's just been their mindset. We did get a question in stating companies have seen change in performance. Things have been the same. Things have been, but how much growth have they gone through? How many junior staff have they tried to bring in? Right. So have they just kind of stayed prevalent in the sense of have they done more growth? Have things changed in any areas? So there's so many questions to go around it. And I think that we're stuck in this trend of everyone's being remote right now because we're still amongst this pandemic. We're not outside of it yet. And there's a lot more change to come. There really is.
Yeah, and be cautious of those things that are too good to be true on the Halloween theme. I'll leave you with a spooky thought, right? If a salary sounds too good, a job sounds too good, a company sounds too good, get it in writing. Protect yourself, right? Think about taking an offer for a lot more money and not having that security, and how much it's going to suck to job search 6 months, 9 months, 2 years down the road. You know, we got to play for the long game here sometimes with this career stuff. It's not always that quick satisfaction. And while there is a lot of stuff about your salary growing fast if you change jobs fast, you know, there's good reasons for leaving and there's less good reasons for leaving. And working with someone like Adrianna or Launa or anyone on their team, highly competent folks, women and men all over the US that care deeply about getting people jobs. We really get paid for finding people jobs. So the fact that we're in business shows we know what we're doing and that we are very motivated to help. It does not serve us to not get you a job. So definitely reach out if you need us, or if you're hiring, because it's so hard and we know it. And we have a huge database of security candidates that are passive and active. We know who they are. We know them. We know what they're looking for, and we can help you find them too.
Absolutely. And Lisa, just to add to that salary piece, remember, like she said, if the salary is too good to be true, remember, if they're giving you too much money, right, and it's great money for you, but what's going to happen is they're called golden handcuffs. Then you're stuck there, right? You're stuck there because, unfortunately, they've overpaid your skill set. And then when you're trying to find opportunities because the culture isn't great or the work-life balance is terrible, but yet you have this great paycheck, and then when you go to transition to a different organization, you're not going to get the same. So be careful, live within your means, you know, do those things. If you're going to take an increased pay, remember that you might have to go backwards to leave there. Okay. So always keep that in mind, and you never know what you're getting into until you start there and you start feeling what's happening. And, you know, you work there for a year or two, right? So let's keep that in mind as we're searching for these things. And, you know, always remember that things can change.
Exactly. Last sentence from you, Launa. Any last thought?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm just thinking that, you know, sometimes what I've seen is this burnout comes from overcompensation because they choose to only hire one person instead of two. And so it's just really, again, think about what you need. You know, I'm willing to work really hard for money at the moment. In a year, I might want more balance. You know, I just don't even know. And so you just really have to know what you want and what challenges you want and where you want them to be, and just really know yourself.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, with that, we leave you. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll see you at the CyberSN booth. Have a great 2 days and enjoy the conference.
Have fun.